she called me at home that night and said, "It's cancer. Get to the office tomorrow morning."
Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, right now. Shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
I've already set you up with, like, literally, this one from her home did this for me. I have set you up with the oncology surgeon for Thursday. So I had the test on a Monday. Results popped up on a Tuesday. She called me that Tuesday. I was in her office on Wednesday making this plan, right, because of how aggressive my cancer was, right? And then Thursday I met with the oncology surgeon, who is also a wonderful woman. Mind you, now, because of how fast and aggressive the cancer came on, I made some decisions that I normally would not have made. I had already been vegan for years, had been a raw foodie at times. My doctors told me to not do raw foods anymore because of my neutropenia. And so they wanted me to eat everything that was dead and, like, you know, not just dead, but like dead times 10 times over, right? So like nothing could even be medium, cooked medium. It had to be like well done, no fresh veggies, nothing like that, right? So I had started following that diet, right? Listening to my doctors, which was a problem. Come to find out with the cancer, I was like, okay, I knew it in my head, right? Because I have a spiritual guide. They talked to me. And my spiritual guide said, you know what to do. You know what to do. Take care of your body in the way that you know how to. Dr. Sebi, which is a former Honduran doctor who is now deceased, no longer with us, put out a diet, an alkaline diet, that I knew, in my belief, if you have an alkaline environment in your body, you can't get disease, because disease has nothing to hold on to, right? And nothing to grow. However, because of how fast and aggressive the cancer was, I was scared and didn't know that I probably could have cured myself or healed myself much quicker, and even before they threw me into surgery, right? And that's something I can get to later on or at a different time, whenever. Where the problem comes right then and there was, even based on the fact that my doctor loved me, that she had another woman doctor who came in who really was trying to have my best interest at heart. What they had been taught by their medical schools, by the medical complex, by all of it, was completely against what I knew and what I should have done for myself, right? They just didn't know any better. But here's the thing, our bodies are not meant to be cut on. Our bodies are not meant to have poison fed into them. Are there times where things like that, like, are necessary? Yeah, if you've been in a gunshot, you know, you had a gunshot, or you're at war or something is eating away, yes, you need to have pieces removed, but not everything requires surgery. Not everything requires surgery. But I have to remember, right, that I was speaking to an oncology surgeon. So that was her mindset, right? Moving forward, they set me up with who they thought was going to be a wonderful reconstructive surgeon. And this is where the huge detriment comes in. A male and a white male. And I say that for very, very necessary reasons, which I'm going to get to. So he came in, read all of the reports about my cancer, examined my breast, did all of that, and thought that he could say we could remove a lot of the. So I did a bilateral mastectomy, right? So I had both breasts removed. But when you have both breasts removed, you're still able to save your skin most of the time, right? And so when they save the skin, they put in expanders, which is this artificial material that they put in, but they can put them in, and then what they do is they put in enough air or saline, right, or fluid, to pump them up to hold the space for your breast tissue for when they actually are going to put in implants, right? So he was like, okay, We can save your areolas or areolas. We can do this, we can do that. And I'm all on board, right? Because I'm like, okay, I only had breast or cancer in one breast. It was a large lump. They did tell me that they could have taken away just a piece of it. But when I heard cancer, I was like, take it all. Take the girls.
Right.
I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Get it out of me. Because we have a huge fear, again, against being sick in our culture, in our society. We don't think about taking the time to get through a disease, that we don't take the time about healing. We're just like, how fast can we eradicate it? How fast? Because we just don't want to do it. And sometimes it's about saving our lives, but a lot of times what I've learned is it's about how fast can I get you back to being productive, making money, right? Working for me, working towards sort of this American way or ideology, right? Anyway, so going back to him, so I was all about this man, all about him, because he was like, he could make miracles, right, and make it pretty. Perfect. Well, healthy isn't always pretty. And pretty is about ego. And I knew that with this cancer, that with the surgery, that with chemo, that with radiation, I was going to lose a lot of who I had been. And that was scary. So I was clinging on to any hope of having any resemblance of myself pre-cancer diagnosis.
Right.
Which is why I followed this man probably the first month after the first surgery with like this God complex ideology, right? Because, and when I say the God complex ideology, it wasn't that I was considered him, you know, to be this higher power. He really believed or acted like he was a higher power, right? After the initial surgery, I had to have a second, after the first bilateral surgery, right? So when you have a bilateral mastectomy, what happens is you have the oncology surgeon who removes the cancer, but then you also have the reconstructive surgeon there who's going to try to do the pretty pieces, right?
Got it.
After the first surgery, they realized that it had gone from grade 3, which means it's the most abnormal looking of the cancers, and stage 1, which they thought, well, it's big, but we've caught it quickly, to it went to grade 3, stage 3, because of how far it had spread. So we had to do an emergency surgery where they went back in and removed all the lymph nodes out of my Benzacayete. Sorry, back to real life. The dog is dogging, right? Where they had removed all the lymph nodes, all the area from underneath my left arm. Okay, so that happens. And then all of a sudden, my breasts are turning pink. I'm not feeling well. I don't feel like myself. And I'm in the hospital. And he tells me I don't have, or it's before I got to the hospital. I went to see him, and he said, "Oh, it's not an infection. You're completely fine." I said, "But my breasts look pink. You know, they feel warm. You're completely fine. It's just your skin complexion." I didn't buy it, because even though I'm a brown woman, I have a yellow oranges undertone. I do not have a pink red undertone. So I thought, okay, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I went to the ER. They said, not only do we think that you have an infection, but you actually tested positive for being septic, which is actually, right? So when someone tells you, there's a lot of times that people will be septic or have a body infection, but it actually won't register when they take the blood work or the other ways that they take the labs, right? So for me to be in the ER and for it to register had meant that this stuff had been there for a while.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. Right. That was the first time. The second time, he still told me, you're not infected. The hospital said you're septic. The third time, and the third and final time with him, I was at a different hospital. I had sent him pictures through my chart. He said again, you're not septic, you're fine. He refused to come visit me in the hospital. I had to have other doctors. Now, mind you, and these were other actually white doctors, white nurses, and one black social worker come in and look at me and say, oh my God, you are not only pink, but you're red.
So wait,
Like,
so hold on. So you're in the hospital. The
mhm.
doctor doesn't think you're septic.
He doesn't even think I have any sort of infection.
Well, why exactly did he think you were in the hospital?
Well, he told me, right? Well, it just, well, you have an infection, but you didn't appear to have an infection. So when I saw him in the office and when I sent him my chart pictures, because I just kept saying, like, inundating him with this information, like, okay, help me, help me, help me. What do I do? And he's like, you're fine. There's no infection. Finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to ignore him and I'm going to go to the hospital. The hospital says you're septic. And then he's like, oh, well, you didn't appear to be septic, right?
Got it.
You didn't. So it took me to call his office and say, you better get down here because I am done. And I'm going to figure out a way for you to understand so this never happens to me or anybody else again.
Yeah.
That man walked into my hospital room, Phillip, looked at my breasts and said, now, mind you, they are blazing hot. They are blazing red. He said, they might be a little pinkish. That was his exact words and the exact expression. They might be a little pinkish. From then it went to one of my expanders. He thought it had burst. He took it out, told me that that I was wrong, that it hadn't burst, that it wasn't leaking air. And the reason why he knew this was because in the middle of the surgery room, he threw it on the floor and actually jumped on it to make certain that it hadn't burst. Right. And then you tell me that not only did you jump on it, but then you reinserted this back into my body.
I was just like, what?
Yeah. He actually said that to me and then reinserted it back into my body. There was another time that I was hospitalized and my expanders would flip and they would call. Now then none of them, his entire medical group, none of them came to visit me in the hospital. They said, we don't believe the doctors there. They don't know what they're talking about. And I said, it's not the doctors, it's me. I'm telling you that my expanders have flipped. I'm in pain. The hospital let me go. I went to their office, to their private plastic surgery office in Centerville, Ohio. Let me just say that there, right? My doctor wasn't there that day. His partner was, who said, I don't believe the doctors. He said, oh my God, you're right. Both of them did flip. I am so, now, he at least admitted that and said, I'm sorry. Right. He got one expander to flip back, but the other one, he couldn't flip back. I mean, he literally wrenched and he said to me, word for word, I know I'm killing you. If the pain gets to be too much, let me know. Right. Just, he could not get it. He couldn't get it. The way that they fixed it, now mind you, also being a woman of color, they refuse to give me any pain medicines for any of this, right? Because we all have to be pain seeking or drug seeking or narcotic seeking, right? But he did at least give me muscle relaxers, which I will say helped. So he gave me the muscle relaxers, and what that did was it allowed the muscle to stop being so inflamed. It went down, and then when I went back to see the actual surgeon, I bent forward, and then he was able to then flip the expander back into place.
Wow.
But let me say, there was never from him specifically, there was never an apology, there was never an admittance of anything. I went back to my friend, my lovely friend at the local hospital system, and I said, Priya, they're killing me. And she said, I already knew that when I took you on that this was going to be a difficult case because of how aggressive your cancer was and how sick you had been in the past. And she said, Heather, honestly, because I was almost through the chemo portion, she said, honestly, I didn't think you were going to make it through any of this.
Oh my gosh.
Which was another problem for me because even though she was a friend of mine, you never once told me that you thought I was going to die. Right? Like that's something I should be privy to, I think. Like if that's really your prognosis, right?
Well, as a friend, maybe, but I don't know. Would it I don't know if that would that be helpful?
Well,
I don't know if that would be helpful.
Thing. So here's the thing. I know that sometimes people think like, well, if you plant something into somebody's mind, right? Like that's what they're gonna think about, right? But here's the thing. as my physician, you're not my therapist, you're not my clergy, you're not my parent. You don't necessarily know me from that point of view, particularly because most physicians are spending less than 15 minutes with a patient when they see them,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
You don't get to decide for me how I react to the truth.
Well, sure. Now, I will say,
Mhm.
I would have appreciated a risk conversation,
Right. Oh, yeah.
or,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would want my doctor to say, I don't think you're going to make it. I don't know if I want that. I would say, hey, you can fight, but here are the percentages that I think. There's like
Right.
a 13% chance. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know where my mind would go if somebody was like, you're just not going
Yeah.
to make it.
Well,
I'm
no,
like,
so she didn't say you're just not going to make it. But what I wanted her to say was to me, so they put me on again because everything was so, and it ended up becoming stage 4, grade 3 cancer, right?
wow.
Um, but they had put me on some what they call dose dense chemo. One is called Red Death or Red Devil, right?
Mm,
As how harsh it is, right? I mean, they take you to the brink
yeah.
because in order to kill the cancer, they basically have to kill you, almost kill you.
Mm,
And at the time, my body had been so badly beaten up by having had, colon disease where I had to have my entire colon removed, right? To having autoimmune disease, to having like this blood neutropenic disorder where like I couldn't absorb things, right? So I wasn't already in a healthy state. I
yeah.
wanted her to be honest as far as like, um, Heather, this is going to be a really, really difficult process. You know that's a difficult process. Right now, the prognosis doesn't look good, but I think we're going to try
Yeah.
to fight it. I want you to keep fighting, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want you to prove me wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, because at that point in time, what it would have allowed me to do, which is what doctors don't want you to do, is to give me a choice. I would have been
Mm,
able to choose, do I get to do this dose dense chemo, right? Or do I want to try to do something more holistic, right? Where what I was told was, okay, it's so severe, you don't have a choice but to go to surgery, do chemo, and do radiation,
got it.
right? When you say it to me like that, that makes me think that, like, okay, if I do these things, then I at least have a good chance of living,
Right.
right? You're thinking, we're going to do what we can, but it's not looking good, sister, right?
Mm,
So that's where I'm coming from, that I would have appreciated a little more truth from her.
yeah.
But she did give it to me then, and then she said, what I'm going to do is I'm referring you to OSU because
Mm,
they have a much more advanced oncology department and the resources that I think are going to be, one, better for you just from a patient standpoint, but also better from you as a woman and a woman of color or a person of color standpoint because of the diversity and the cultural competencies that they are forced to deal with there.
mm,
Let me say, she didn't lie. That woman did not lie. I
mm,
got to OSU, they got me through radiation um, in a respectful manner. And I say
mm,
respectful because it didn't heal me, it didn't save me. I ended up saving myself. Um, but the fact that they supported me
mm,
was something I had not experienced from the local healthcare systems here around the Dayton, Ohio area.
mm.
Um, at one point in time, they told me they sent me to palliative care. If people who don't know what palliative care is, it's I call it outpatient hospice, right?
Okay.
Like they give you what I call a death date instead of a birth date. They give you pretty much a death date. But another difference between hospice and palliative care is that you still are trying to live, right? So with hospice, they only want to make you comfortable, right?
Yeah.
With palliative care, they want to make you comfortable, but you're still taking treatments.
Yeah.
So they put me in palliative care. I met with two physicians, one much better than the other, but I got what I needed, which was a wake up call. And the wake up
Mm,
call was, one of them looked at me and said, I looked at your file before you walked in here, and I didn't know if you were going to have 6 days or 6 months to live,
mm,
depending upon what I read.
mm.
Seeing you gives me hope.
Wow.
And so, right, because I had a different presentation than what my records said, right? But I've always been a positive person, even through cancer. There were times I definitely got angry and started calling people out on their shit, probably in a little harsher manner than I normally would have before cancer, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, as my grandmother always said, show the love, right? You know, don't let people walk on you, but still show them the love. And so that's what I've always tried to do. And so when I got to him, that was the energy that met him, right? And so he said, I'm still going to refer you to the actual palliative care clinic. We're going to do these things. We're going to make you comfortable for this process. But I need to tell you, and this is something that he did for me that I wished Priya had done for me. His name was Dr. Ryan Nash. I'm still thinking 6 months, and I need you to get your affairs in order. Now, it's on you. And this was the difference. He said, but it's on you. You could have 6 months, you could have 6 years, you could have the rest of your life. But right now, according to your records, 6 months, get your affairs in order. That was what I wanted from my previous doctors. At that moment, I said, F the chemo drugs, because even though you take infused chemo, so a lot of people still have to take on chemo drugs for like 5 to 10 years for the rest, you know, or even sometimes for the rest of their lives to make sure that it doesn't come back. F the chemo injections or infusions. So I would, in the hormone injections, I would go once a month to get these hormone injections. For a while, I did take some of the pain medicine just because radiation, like it eats at your body. It's like a chemical. Like they basically, radiation is what causes cancer, but radiation also kills cancer, which is kind of crazy, right? Or basically what they do is they kill the cells that held the cancer. My skin started to open up. And yeah, it was like this whole huge open wound across my chest. And so for a while, yeah, I took those narcotics because like the pain was incredulous and I didn't know any better. At the time I wasn't versed in traditional Chinese herbs, Ayurvedic medicine, you know, old African ancient, you know, sort of traditions that we, you know, and even a lot of American herbs that we have on American soil that we could be using for pain, cancer, discomfort, all of it, right? I wasn't educated in that yet.
Yeah.
But I damn for certain knew that I was going to figure out a way to get educated. And so Rick Simpson oil, which was, I had never been into cannabis, right? But I had always been an advocate for it because I knew about the medical properties and all of that, right? And so luckily I had already been helping a dispensary open in Cincinnati. So my partner, before he passed, would bring me Rick Simpson oil. Luckily, when he did pass, another wonderful woman who's from like the Yellow Springs, Dayton area, took up his I'll call it his train, right, and was bringing me Rick Simpson oil in large amounts. I started doing the Dr. Sebi diet, right, so a complete alkaline diet, right.
Yeah.
Did that, started back on my meditation and my prayer, and really put my faith into myself, the God within me, and the universe, and did the darn thing. And at 6 months, I went back to have my PET scan. A PET scan is what they give you, and it shows, it will highlight or light up in certain areas of your body if there is cancer. Nothing lit up.
Wow.
Now, June, July, they tell me I've got 6 months to live. Cancer is throughout my body. I'm stage 4, grade 3. I'm getting ready to die. December, I go back for my scheduled PET scan, which they told me I probably wasn't even going to make. Excuse me. I wasn't even going to make it for that appointment. I showed up for that appointment. What I forgot to tell you was I looked at Dr. Nash when he told me I had 6 months to live, and I told him I don't have time to die. Those are my words, and I will say them over. I ain't got time to die. I was raising kids, still raising kids. I hadn't stepped into my full purpose in this earth. I haven't advocated or healed enough people on this earth. I ain't got time to die. First person, all these years I had been healing and taking care of everybody else because I am an intuitive healer and have done, you know, things for people in the past. I had never done it for myself. I became selfish, which I needed to be for that time. Being selfish, my research that my grandfather taught me to do when he was raising me, and my belief in a higher power is what saved my life. Because that December I went and they said, oh my God, there is cancer nowhere in your body. Nowhere in your body. And they wanted to know, so even though they were all aware of what I had been doing all along with my holistic practices, they wanted to know what I had done from then. And then they've started studying what I had done.
Yeah.
Fast forward, the way that I'm even healthier now is I was still taking certain medicines. I was taking an anti-anxiety medicine that I had taken since my early 20s. And I was taking a GERD or acid reflux medicine that I had taken since my gastric bypass in 2003. I went to see a naturopathic doctor here. I had seen one before, but this one was a little bit different. I no longer see him, but I no longer need to, because I just needed sort of like the confidence to step out on my own and trust my own gut and my own spirit guides talking to me. But I did a seeded fruit cleanse for 8 days. I stopped all the medicines. I went through about a month and a half of withdrawals of being angry and crazy. Like, I even apologized to my boys in advance saying, Mom is going to come off of this stuff and you're going to have not so great or healthy mom. I'm going to curse, I'm going to scream, I'm going to yell, and then I'm going to cry and I'm going to apologize and I'm going to make it up to you, right? But I just need to prepare you for this. So if I'm saying, gosh darn it, F this, blah, 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 why are you acting this way? In one ear and out the other, because you know this is not the mom that has raised you, right? This is me coming off of all the dope that's been in my body for all these years. And that's exactly what happened. But let me tell you, in the last 2 months, since I have done that, since I've been doing the traditional Chinese herbs, since I've been doing the Ayurvedic herbs, since I've transformed my diet and dug into my research, I'm now going for my degree in naturopathic doctorate. Naturopathic doctorate is what I want to do now. And I'm becoming certified in herbalism, so I can definitely, I've always been saving others and healing others, but now I need to be certified and licensed to do it. Let me tell you, my energy, I'm getting ready to go back to work full time. And when I say full time, I'm not going to go ever work for somebody else, because I'm not going to let somebody take my joy. But what I'm doing is I'm doing work for others, right? I haven't had a full-time position, ran my household and raised my kids in 3 years.
Wow.
At least. I raised my boys from bed through cancer. And that was not the greatest for them, but we did what we had to do. We got through it. And now I'm on the other side, and so are they.
That is so wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So that's where I'm at now, but really it's been about research. And so that's also, and then learning how to work with my doctors, right? Because my doctors weren't listening to me. And something I really want people to know is that doctors are human, right? And we have to remember that. Doctors are human. So one, with being human, there's also a fear. Doctors don't like sick patients, right? And I know that sounds odd to hear, but it sounds odd to hear because that's how they make money. But it's not odd to hear, because if someone is sick, continues to be sick, that can feel like a failure to a doctor, right? It doesn't feel good. You don't want to meet someone who's sickly, right? You don't want to meet, because it's a scary thing. One, you don't know if that's something that can happen to you in the future, right?
Yeah.
Number two, you're so used to being healthy or wanting to be healthy that, like, you feel like these people who are sick or diseased are having pity parties, or they're to blame for their own, health issues or whatever. So they never want to look at how other things have contributed to that, right? But more importantly, in their mind, they're a success. They got through law school, they're getting through residency, right? They've treated patients. They don't like the sickly. That's one thing you have to remember. Second of all, you also have to remember that they're taught from a Socratic method, right, in medical school, which means you don't really look at the person. Think about, okay, what's the disease? What are the symptoms? Okay, the symptoms must be, okay, this disease. So it can be this disease or this disease. It has to be just those things, right? If there's something rare that might be going on, that's probably psychological or right, it's outside of their spectrum or their realm. But a lot of times, even as humans, they don't want to admit that they don't know something.
Mm.
Sometimes they don't know what they don't know,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then a lot of times they want to try to fix it because they're competing with themselves,
Mm.
right? Sort of like that thing of where we tell people, okay, if you don't get it the first time, keep try again. Well, unfortunately, as a therapist, as a physician, as an attorney, as in certain professions, there is no try again. If you
Yeah.
can't get it the first time or the second time, if you can't bring in somebody right to help guide you or navigate it, then you need to refer out,
Mm.
right? Um, and so that's what I've learned. And I've also learned to pay attention to my doctors to see if they listen to me, right?
Mm.
If they're listening, the first time I recognize that they're not listening to me, then I will do some things like say to them, what's the worst that can happen?
Mm.
Don't tell me what you think the symptoms are. Tell me, or what you think the disease is. What's the worst possible thing with the symptoms? What's the worst or what's the rarest thing that you've heard of with something with regards to these symptoms?
Mm.
What that does is it'll tell you one of two things. One, if he laughs or she laughs it off, right? Or if they laugh it off, right? Or they tell you don't worry about it, then you know that that's not the doctor for you.
Hmm.
You need to get a second opinion. Second of all, what should happen is that it stops them in their tracks, right? It stops them in their tracks from going through like their, because think of it like a medical library card catalog in their head, right? They've got this card catalog that they've quickly run through of what they think the disease is, how to fix it, or
Yeah.
how to start it and then get you out of their room, right? When you say what's the worst or what's the most rare thing that's been attributed to these symptoms before, it makes them think and go back and access, right, what else they've learned that they may not be thinking of, that they may not see, because a lot of times doctors see the same things over and over and over again. And it's sort of like
Mm.
that show Brain Games. If you ever see it, our brains, they automatically, right, want to categorize things for us or put things to make it
Yeah.
easier for us, right, to navigate our environment. I mean, that's a basic survival, right? Like the brain automatically kind of characterizes things and lets us know, okay, is this safe? Is it not safe? Educated brains do the same thing. So
Mm.
that makes them stop in their tracks, and really analyze what's going on. Um, I will tell you this, a secret that I've learned from my research is that when you go to the ER, the doctors are thinking about one thing or two things. Are they going to die in the next 3 days? How fast can I get them out to get the next person in?
Mm.
And that's not an opinion, right? And that's not a layperson opinion. That comes from me having read books. One is called How Doctors Think, and
Mm.
all the books that I'm reading or that I'm talking of, and or quoting are by physicians who are
Mm.
telling you about their own practices, where they've messed up, and where they've learned to succeed now, and how they've learned to succeed. Right.
Mm.
So this is not just an opinion. They're taught in an ER. Do you have 3 days? Are you going to die within 3 days? If you can die within 3 days, then yeah, you're getting hospitalized, right? Or they're going to continue to focus on you. If they know they walk in and that you aren't going to die, in their opinion, in the next 3 days, you're out the door,
Mm.
right? That's how
Wow.
fast they can get you out. And that's unfortunately what happens, because a lot of times when people are misdiagnosed, or even unfortunately die within those 3 days, right? Because they have done this automatic checklist and didn't know to slow down or didn't realize that they should be taking the time out to further investigate.
Mm. Yeah.
So those are the main things, that I work with as far as trying to be an advocate for, people within the healthcare system. And of course, then there's other things that I try to advocate for, which is, how to be your own physician.
Mm.
But yeah.
You also have some. Well, I'm so glad that you kind of like said, you know what, let me open up a book and figure it out. Because I think because you decided to do that and you decided to kind of dig deep and you decided, I think a lot of people will be, I'll put quote, saved, if you will, by that, because it just takes somebody who went through that experience to help somebody else not have to do that.
Mhm.
And that's so incredible. And I know that you have some engagements coming up. You're going to be on DATV.
Yes. So in February, we are starting. Well, we're actually already starting. It's called like a knowledge cipher, right? And it's with regards to healthcare. Um, and so I'm on sort of like the advisory committee for it. But on the initial segment, we're going to be working about with healthcare, alternative healthcare, and how to heal yourself. And so that we're actually talking tonight, as a matter of fact, about what date we're going to be doing that on DATV. I'm also right now starting to open back up in a private practice and work with patients on, again, navigating the healthcare system, but also, and this is so important, and I need to say this to get this off my chest for your viewers. The research is so important, or finding someone like myself who can either steer you in the right direction or help heal you, right? Because what they don't want you to know is that if you go to PubMed, all of these natural things, right? The cure for AIDS, the cure for herpes, how to cures for cancer in certain ways have actually been studied. All of these, the Ayurvedic medicines, the traditional Chinese medicines, the naturopathic herbs that I have been using to heal myself. When I started, so I started downloading things so I can open up my private practice and start healing other people with the natural medicines, realized that all of these things, if you go to PubMed, there's lots. It's not like one or two journal articles on this stuff. There's thousands. This stuff has been researched by the medical complex. They know what to do. They're just not doing it. So I encourage people, please, and I know that I was blessed because I had grandparents that raised me to be educated and raised me to be a challenger, a co-conspirator, a questioner, right? A lot of people didn't have that same blessing that I had. So it is my purpose on this earth to either teach people how to do that for themselves or to be that for those people, right? Because there's no reason why people are out here dying at the rates that they are. It's not saying that you can save everybody, but the rate is ridiculous. The rates are ridiculous as far as what's happening. Like I walked in with cancer at stage 4, grade 3. I had people who were walking in before me or walking around the same time who had like stage 1, maybe grade 1, grade 2, who died within a couple of months that I had developed close relationships with. And I kept saying to them, please try this, please try this. And of course, they trusted their doctors.
Sure.
And I will say, 2 were white women, 1 was a white man, and I am still to this day devastated by the loss of their life. And actually recently, I'm forgetting one. One was a black woman who died probably about 6 months ago, who literally on Facebook, someone had sent her my information. She had reached out to me, and I just said, I'm going to get with you. I'm going to do this overall. If you're ready, like if you're ready to make the change, because that's the thing, it's hard. You have to be willing to put in the work, right? If you're willing to put in the work, I'll work with you. Not even a month later, because she was still kind of thinking about it. Her mother, I take it back, her aunt found my phone number in her phone and reached out to me to let me know that she had passed. It's horrific. It's horrific what we do to people. It's horrific what we allow to happen to each other. And so it is the rest of my life's purpose on this earth is to help heal or help educate as many people as I can on what a beautiful life we can have if we take time to sit back and listen to our bodies and do the research for ourselves and learn to be analytical challenge thinkers and not just go with what is mainstream or what has been status quo.
Absolutely. For I know that somebody either listening or watching um, can identify with that, and just the drive and the determination that you're showing, the hope and the spirit of it all. Where can people find you to
Yes.
connect?
So definitely right now, I'm on Facebook under Heather M. Holland.
Hmm.
I'm on IG under Intuitive Confidential. And if you want the fun human side of me, not just like the professional, practitioner side, you can look me up at Parent Confidential on IG. And I just got my website, which is www.thehollandpractice.com.
Okay.
Um, so right now I was able to get the domain yesterday. The website isn't up just yet, but I'm working on it. So in the interim, you guys are welcome to find me there. Or, um, you know what? I'm always able to block people. So here's the thing: if you have an emergency or you need to get a hold of me, I don't mind sharing my phone number. Philip, is that okay with you if I share it?
That's fine.
Okay. So my phone number is area code 937-751-3265. The best way is to send me a text if you can. If you call and I don't answer, just please leave me a voicemail. I am old school that way. I will check my voicemails. But that's probably the easiest thing. I would give you emails, but my email right now is just inundated. So
Yeah.
those are probably the best and fastest ways that people can get a hold of me.
Awesome. I'm so excited that you're getting your website up and running, and you're having like a home base for you to be able to give your advice and help people. It's amazing to hear your story and the courage that it takes to come out where you are and continue to move forward. A lot of people just need to hear and see that it's possible to say, hey, I think I'll make it too. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that with us.
Thank you. Of course. No, I'm blessed to be able to put my story out there. So thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so some off the cuff questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Your favorite movie?
Oh my. Okay. The Golden Child. I know it's. I said it quickly. Yes. But literally old Eddie Murphy movies, but particularly The Golden Child. I want the knife, please. That is my joint. That is my joint.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I have not thought of that movie in so long. And I never ate oatmeal the same after that, just to be clear. Just to be clear.
Thank you.
It
And
ruined it for me.
and you shouldn't. You should.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you shouldn't be eating oatmeal. But that's okay. That's another story.
Okay, what is your favorite holiday and why?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it used to be Thanksgiving because I loved, and it was about just getting together with family, right, and everybody cooking. But um, yeah, that's lost a lot of for me just because I've changed my food habits, and unfortunately, right, like family is wonderful, but sometimes family can be toxic, right? So now my favorite holiday is Halloween. I know that sounds cray. Ooh, ooh, but I like to dress up. But I would say ooh, or my birthday. My birthday is a
Oh, your
holiday.
birthday. When's your
My
birthday?
birthday is a holiday. March 4th. I'm a Pisces.
March 4th. Ooh,
Yes.
in the middle of this. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Uh, there, let's see. And okay, this is the final question.
Hmm.
If somebody asked you on a date to the Cheesecake Factory, would you go?
Ah! You know what? Oh, I can't stand you for asking me this question. Would I go? I would go just because they were asking me to. Would I want to eat at the Cheesecake Factory? No. And it's not because I'm too good for the Cheesecake Factory. Because here's the thing, it's an environment. I want to break bread with whomever, right? So I would go. Would I eat the food? But I can't go a lot of places and eat nowadays because my diet is insane. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a good answer. That was a good answer.
But please ask me on a date somebody. I will go. Shoot.
uh,
So, and I even like walking dates,
Ooh,
right?
walking
Like,
date.
or yes, walking date, right? Or what I used to call a walking date, right? So, well, this is actually when I used to drink too, but so we would go someplace, right? Have a drink together, then go to another place, walk to another place, have an appetizer, go to another place, have dinner,
Oh,
or go to a place and have a dessert. But now it could be right, like you go to a place and you can have tea, and you go to a bookstore, and then you kind of go
hmm.
through the books together, right? And then you maybe go to a park, like I
Oh,
like
that's fun.
adventure. I'm about experiences.
Yeah. What a
Yeah.
tour. That's like a whole tour.
Oh yeah, that's me. But what should I say? Those are the dates I used to take people on, right? Because my thing is, you teach people right how to treat you. So if I
Yeah.
want you to treat me well, I'm going to treat you well.
Yeah, and showing that is kind of shows what you're interested in, because me thinking that I'm treating somebody right may be outside of that person's interest spectrum completely,
That's
so
what hurt.
yeah. Heather, thank you so much for being here and just being so
Woo!
inspirational. Yes.
I love you. Thank you so much. Mwah. I love your viewers. Thank you so much, because I know most of them. Well, I don't know most of them, but I know a lot of them are from the Yellow Springs area. And go Antioch, go YS. Woo.
So that was Heather. What a tremendous display of courage. What a tremendous display of hope. And so many wisdom nuggets. You always hear me talk about wisdom nuggets, but there's so much packed into this interview with Heather, and I thank her for her transparency. Make sure you go to phillipo'rourke.com to find out how to connect with her and to ask any questions. We'll get her website up as soon as it's ready. One of my takeaways today is, don't be afraid to be inquisitive. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to step out and challenge. Be all right with that, and surround yourself with some people that will tell you the truth, even if it's a hard one to hear. Make sure you check us out again, phillipo'rourke.com. This is the Phillip Show, and thank you so much for watching. And as usual, you are the best you in the world. I'll see you next time.
Don't